Welcome back to Wujidao's channel. Tonight, what I'm about to share is especially important, particularly for the women among you who feel like you've been stuck in life that feels small, repetitive, and far from the one you truly desire. If you've grown tired of mediocrity, if you feel there's something more waiting for you, yet you don't know how to reach it, then please, I ask you to stay with me for the next 15 minutes. Watch carefully, listen closely, reflect deeply. Because once you truly understand what I'm about to reveal, you will begin to realize all the hardships, the stagnation, even the repeated heartbreaks, they didn't happen without reason. Your pain and your joy, your rise and your ruin were never random. They were consequences of choices, conscious or unconscious, that shaped your fate. Now, those of you who follow me for some time already know, as a professional Bazi consultant, I have the rare privilege of working with some of the most exceptional women in the upper echelons of society, women who possess not only power and influence, but an acute understanding of destiny. And while they fiercely believe in self-determination and ambition, they also hold deep reverence for the Asian wisdom found in Chinese metaphysics. By divine timing or perhaps destiny, my life's work has allowed me to decode their life maps, to offer them clarity in their most pivotal moment, and to walk with them through their evolution. But what I want to share with you today is not lecture on Bazi theory or metaphysical charts. What I want to give you as a gift is something even more powerful, the distilled life wisdom I've learned from these powerful women. The mindset codes they live by, the hidden philosophies that elevated them from ordinary lives to extraordinary empires. Why am I sharing this? Not for fame, not for profit, but because I believe with every part of my being that more women deserve to rise, and that perhaps just one sentence in this video may become your turning point. Let me be clear. When I say exceptional women, I'm not referring to influencers with curated lives or actresses in borrowed jewelries. I'm speaking of women with verified net worths in the hundreds of millions, some in the billions. Whether through inheritance or gift, each of them stand on solid foundation, one that took years, even decades to build. And if that philosophy I share today are powerful enough to guide them, then rest assured they're more than powerful enough to guide you. Tonight, I will share just a few core principles, 3 or 4, not more, enough for you to reflect on, especially during the quiet hours of the night. But I must emphasize, the third and fourth principles will challenge your beliefs the most. They may break your current worldview, and that's precisely why they're the most precious. Ready? Let's begin. 1. The master key, turning darkness into light. Whenever I access a woman's true level in life, not her surface, but her actual spiritual and energetic tier, I look at just one thing. How does she respond to adversity? Not her resume, not her social media highlights, but how she handles the storms of her own life. Because here the code truth, if a woman remains trapped in the cycles of emotional negativity, anger, resentment, self-pity, and never learns how to transmute them, then unfortunately, she's not ready to rise. She's not yet qualified for new life. Until she learns how to alchemy her suffering, she will remain stuck at the lowest tier of the human game. In Bazi, we call this 心境, the inner state of being. And the golden rule of destiny is simple. The outer world shifts when the inner world transforms. Over the years, I worked with powerful women across every domain: business, arts, media, entrepreneurship, and I noticed something striking they all share. When life threw them hardship, they do not collapse into despair. They don't curse the heavens, they don't spiral into victimhood. Instead, they listen, they study the pain, they interpret it as a coded message from the universe, a divine correction. For example, she gets betrayed in business. She reflects, that was my blank point. Thank you, fate, by showing me where I must level up. She gets deceived by men. She says, yes, I was naive, but now I understand what quality truly looks like. Thank you, universe, for the warning. And just like that, the wound becomes wisdom, the chaos becomes clarity, the loss becomes fuel. This is emotional alchemy, and this is the signature trait of women who ascend. Now on the flip side, I'm sure you've also met women who even in their 30s or 40s carry a heavy energy of bitterness. Spend 5 minutes with them, and it's a flood of complaints. The world is fair, men are trash, nothing ever goes their way. But let's be honest, who hasn't suffered? We've all cried at midnight. We've all endured betrayal, rejection, loss. But the difference between powerful women and a powerless one is this. A wise woman turns pain into fuel. A wounded woman uses pain as her lifelong excuse. The moment you stop using your wounds as shields and start using them as mirrors, at the moment your destiny begins to shift. Because here's another truth Phil wants to say out loud. Even if a woman's birth chart is flawless, if her mindset is stuck in resentment, she will still sabotage her own life. And even if her chart is full of flaws, and if her heart is like the sun, bright, resilient, warm, she will carve her way to light. That's not just a destiny, that's mastery of fate. 2. From narrow vision to strategic power, mastering the grand blueprint of life. Here's some compliment I receive often from clients across the world, women and men alike, and it's something I hold close with deep gratitude. They say, Master, your ratings are not only accurate, but vast in perspective, so open, so clear. Of course, the wording may vary, but the meaning is always the same. Why do you feel that way? Because I never waste my clients' precious life energy analyzing petty problems or obsessing over small financial fluctuations. Instead, I offer something far more powerful, a crystal clear view of the grand structure of their life. I guide them to say big, think long, and act wise. Here's the kind of insight I focus on during my ratings. What's your most aligned career path? One that maximizes your profit while ensuring long-term stability. What type of partner truly suits your destiny, and how do you find and build that relationship? Which wealth domain are most energetically compatible with your chart, and when is the right time to invest? Which years are for rapid expansion, which years are for stillness and restoration? Every word I speak aims at long-term transformation, at the decisions that shapes your fate, not just a week. That's why so many clients return year after year, not out of habit, but because they know my strength lies in perspective, not prediction. But then there are others. Clients who come with intense emotional urgency, but zero vision. They magnify the smallest event into emotional catastrophes and wear scarcity like a second skin. And when I sit down with them, I finally understand the difference between students of life and students of pain. I've been trying to explain the 10-year trajectory of their career path, and they will interrupt me to ask why their coworkers didn't invite them to lunch, or why someone didn't help to print a document. I'll be carefully outline which type of man suits their destiny best, and they will derail the conversation to complain that their ex never cooked for them. It's exhausting. Because while I do take my role as a destiny guide seriously, I cannot and will not spend scared energy entertaining emotional travel. Let me be blunt. The difference between women who rise and women who remain stuck is vision. Big hearts, big minds, big moves versus small talk, small grudges, small living. No matter how clever your schemes or how sharp your tongue, if you're stuck in the petty emotional loop, you will never outgrow your own ceiling. I once told a young woman trapped in jealousy and small-minded games, something I hope you will remember too. True revenge isn't slapping your enemy, it's deleting them elegantly from your life's blueprint. Either outmaneuver them or charm them into irrelevance, but never stoop to their level. And years later, when you've risen into your full power, you can look back, not with spite, but with amused curiosity, and say, well, you're still cycling the same struggles from years ago. How interesting. This is not arrogance. This is energetic elevation. And the moment you trade partners for power, the moment you start thinking in decades instead of days, is the moment the universe begins to move for you. 3. Build your own power structure, the compounding mindset of real wealth. Every year, I witness the same quiet miracle unfold around me. Former clients, past students, even friends who once felt lost or insignificant, gradually transforming their lives, break by break, choice by choice. And the most powerful lesson I've drawn from watching their stories: Rome was never built in a day, but it was built by those who showed up every single day. Across all their differences, industry, background, personality, these successful women share one thing in common: they're masters of compounding. While others grow, doubt, procrastinate, or mock, these women carve out time, even when exhausted, to build something of their own. They launch tiny projects no one notices. They post content no one watches. They create services no one buys at first. But they keep going, step by step, quietly, persistently, while no one claps, while nothing seems to work. And then, slowly, the magic begins. Their first few followers appear, their first loyal customers return, their once invisible efforts begin to accumulate, and more importantly, to stick. These are not bursts of luck. These are roots, the beginnings of a personal economy, of confidence, of autonomy. And when they eventually expand into new ventures, it's those early customers who become their first investors, their first evangelists, their first bridge to scalable wealth. Let me give you a real example. In the past 2 years alone, I've seen multiple women who just 3 or 4 years ago were anonymous office workers, now making six figures a month through niche business in parenting, local retail, or daily essentials. They weren't born with money, they weren't influencers, they simply picked one boring but useful skill and did it with consistency and care for years. Today, they're writing the algorithm, serving the niche markets, and enjoying a level of financial peace they once only dreamed about. But here the truth feels dare to say. Most people, especially those who complain about not earning enough, never even take the first step. They talk, they fantasize, they wait. But when it comes to doing the dull, repetitive, unglamorous work, they vanish. They say they want to build an empire, but they don't even show up for the foundation. And so, the harsh truth is, some women would never build their own Rome, not because they are unlucky, but because they are impatient, undisciplined, and short sighted. Real wealth, the kind that no one can take from you, must be grown. It doesn't arrive, it's earned. And only those with vision, faith, and reputation will ever hold it. 4. Face the world as it is, not as you wish it will. Sister, I won't drag this on too long, but before we end, there are a few truths I hope you will grab sooner rather than later, because the age at which you internalize these truths will change the trajectory of your entire life. When you are not yet strong, the world does not care about your sincerity. Your kindness will be seen as weakness. Your hard work will be dismissed as desperation. Your efforts to please will be veiled as pathetic attempts to be liked. That's why, even though you're a woman, I want you to become someone who is emotionally resilient, financially independent, spiritually unshakable, and physically unapologetically refined. Because only then can you afford softness, safety, and serenity. If you're born into an average family and you lack external beauty or elite connections, then the worst thing you can do is to believe in a man's promise too early and use that illusion as an excuse to abandon your own growth. A wise woman knows every 3 years she must shed her old skin, refine, upgrade, evolve. Never, and I mean never, expect someone to rescue you from your own stagnation. Men are not saviors, they're companions sometimes if you're lucky. But in this life, the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. Don't be naive, don't be lazy. Wake up. Finally, accept your destiny, but don't surrender to it. This is the first thing I say to every client who sits across from me with their birth chart in hand. Don't assume your fate is the worst just because your life has been hard. Most people don't fail because of their chart. They fail because they never refined it, never fought for it, never activated what was hidden. And don't envy others. No one's life is perfect. Even those who shine now, they've paid the price. Some just paid it early behind the closed doors and you weren't there to see it. So stop obsessing over who has more luck. Stop planting your seeds. Because the laws of heaven are fair. You plant the right seeds with the right intention in the right soil, you will be repaid. If you're still watching, I want to honor you, not for agreeing with everything I said, but for having the stamina to listen. That alone sets you apart. The world is harsh, yes, but it's also deeply responsive to those who dare to face it honestly and shape it wisely. Until next time, stay sharp and keep rising.